Hey guys, Richard here with Downgrade Survival. Today in this video I want to share with you what I have in my emergency winter heat kit. Now you might be thinking, Richard, you live in Florida, so why are you thinking about emergency heat? So I'll be honest with you, I haven't really put a lot of thought into it until recently. Just last year, if we look at what happened in Texas when the winter storm came through and they had that ice storm that wreaked havoc on the state and took out all those windmills that was providing energy, and people were without electricity for about a week. And a lot of people were, unfortunately, a lot of people were dying because they were just freezing to death because temperatures got so low. And we live in a world where things are just changing constantly. And so it got me thinking that, you know what? We have 1 or 2 weeks here in the area where I live where it gets pretty cool. And if we were to lose electricity, then we need to have an alternate heat source. And then if something unfortunate happens like that did in Texas, where we just have, for some reason, have a deep freeze, then we'd be in trouble because we're just not prepared for it. So we got prepared for it this year, and I wanted to share that with you. Now before I move any further, let me say that just last night, Magic Prepper, if any of you follow him, released a similar video. And it's purely coincidental. Okay, I've had this video planned for a couple of weeks. It's just that I hadn't got around to getting it on the schedule. I had it on the schedule for today, and just last night Magic Prepper released his video talking about a lot of these same things. But you're going to hear my perspective on it. So here's when I got to thinking about emergency heat. I needed something, obviously, that didn't use electricity, and something that I didn't have to use all my saved up energy in my solar battery generator, my solar battery systems, because I know electric heat, even those small space heaters, they draw just an enormous amount of heat, electricity, and I don't want to use my electricity on heat. I want to save my Delta Pro Extra battery, and the other small systems I have to focus on things like lights and my refrigerator and freezer, keeping those things cold. So yeah, I knew that propane or natural gas was probably the best option to go, and I also know that those are very, very dangerous. Now, you can't use just any propane heater or gas heater indoors. It's deadly. People die every season because they get themselves in a bad spot and they end up firing up a propane heater or something, burning some propane indoors, and they die shortly thereafter because of carbon monoxide poisoning. So don't do that, okay? Don't cut corners. Don't risk it. Don't put your life and the life of your family at risk by doing something that is just downright foolish, okay? So I went out and I found the Mr. Heater right here. I know Mr. Heater has a good long history of providing indoor heat safely, and I also know that they operate on propane. Now, I can't tell you how these things are made and how they're designed that allows them to work indoors, but this is the only heater that I am familiar with that you can use propane indoors without killing yourself through carbon monoxide poisoning. So this is what we got. Now when you look at the price of these, you're going to say, man, those are kind of expensive. They are, okay? But they're also, from what I understand, probably the only one on the market that can do this, and they're safe, okay? The company says right on the box, indoor safe. Now they've got a couple safety features in there. Of course, most heaters, they have the tip safety feature, so it tips over, it automatically shuts off. This one also has a low oxygen sensor, so if there's, for some reason, there is a problem where the oxygen is getting depleted in the room, in the space, it will automatically shut off. I will tell you that even when I plan to use this indoors, if we have to, I will still put it near a window or a door that I leave cracked open just a little bit, just so we have a good airflow, good air circulation in the room, because I just don't trust the idea that the company's been around a while and they say it's safe, but mechanical things can go wrong, and I don't want something to be mechanically wrong with my unit and not wake up the following day. So along with that, so we have this here. Let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll talk about some of the other items on the table. But this is one of the smaller units. They have several to choose from. I was able to get this on sale, okay? And I bought it a couple of weeks ago, and I checked, and it's no longer on sale, unfortunately, but and I'll still put a link to the one I have down below. But I was able to scoop it up at a pretty decent discount. But this one uses the small propane bottles that you use for like if you're going camping, and they just simply screw on right here onto this nozzle. And from there, these small propane bottles on a lower setting is going to run for about 5 hours. Now I did some research, and some other folks online were saying it lasted much longer for them. I think a lot depends on the space that you put it in. If you have it in a smaller space and you're trying to heat a smaller space, it's going to be more efficient. It's going to last a lot longer. Now with that, this particular unit is good for about 225 square feet. So larger than a typical bedroom, okay, probably smaller than some people's living rooms. So you don't want to stick this in an open area where the heat is just going to slowly dissipate and go throughout your house, because it's just going to, the heat is just going to cool off, and it's not going to be effective everywhere except for the area right around the heater. So it's best to use it in an area that's a little more confined, like a bedroom. If you find yourself in need of emergency heat and you're gathering, say, in your living room space or something like that, then maybe consider looking at how you can block off the space to kind of make it a smaller space so that this can run more efficiently and it'll last a lot longer for you. You know, I don't have a lot to say about the Mr. Heater. We haven't had to use it yet, so that's a good thing. It does have a handle here so you can easily move it around. It's small, lightweight, compact, and that's the reason that we picked it up. Now, we have this large propane tank here because this particular model, you can connect larger propane tanks to it. And this is this is about a 30 pound tank. Each one of these small containers are 1 pound. So if you think about it, you know, 1 pound is going to last you at least about 5 hours in a smaller space. And then if you connect a 30 pound bottle, like this is the one that I use in my barbecue grill, and I have several of these tanks actually, I'll be able to hook up to that and, you know, extend the heat for several days if necessary. Now there's a couple of items here I want to share with you that I picked up also, so it's part of my kit. So not only do I have a couple of these bottles, which is convenient, allows me to slap one on, and allows me to go portable with this thing, move it around. It's great if I'm going camping in the wintertime and I want to heat up my tent or something. I can safely do that, and I don't have to lug around one of these. I can just bring a couple of these smaller bottles. But for here at home, I want to be able to connect to these guys because they'll last a lot longer. You know, to do that, I picked up this Mr. Heater hose, and what it is, this particular one is a 5-foot hose, but you can get them up to 10, 12 feet that allows you to connect your tank and your heater. And you know, if you're going to have a burning heat source like this, I don't necessarily want my tank right next to it. You know, things do happen at the connection point. There could be a small leak or something, and you just don't want to take that kind of risk. So, you know, leave this as far away as you can. And, you know, maybe thinking about it, I probably should have picked up the 10-foot hose just to get it a little further away. And that might be something I do. So we have that right there. Also, if you're going to be connecting to a tank like this, these particular tanks are known for being kind of dirty on the inside, okay? Especially some of the older tanks. They can become contaminated on the inside, whether it be through moisture, when gas is being put in and taken out, whether it's just deterioration of the tank, but over time, you know, it can become contaminated. And this particular heater is designed that it has to burn the fuel very cleanly, which prevents the carbon monoxide, right? So therefore, they recommend that you put a filter whenever you're going to be using this style of tank with this heater, that you also put an inline filter. And all it is it just connects you know, at the end of your hose, and then you can still make your connection here. And it just filters everything coming out of here to make sure that the gas that goes to the heater itself is very clean, so it burns clean and you're not going to have any issues. Now here's another little device I picked up that I thought was pretty handy. With this little device right here, I can take one of these propane bottles, I can screw this on to the propane bottle, or excuse me, screw this end on to this little propane bottle, and then this end goes on the larger tank. And it's got a valve here that I can open up, and so that I can refill these small bottles using larger tanks like this. As long as these tanks are full and they've got more pressure than what's in this bottle, you can easily transfer the propane from here to these smaller bottles to refill them. And that's a lot more economical than buying and stockpiling a whole bunch of these small ones. So my plan moving forward is, you know, I might pick up a couple more of these just to have them, you know, just to have them on the shelf, right? But I'm going to probably stock up and get a few more of these larger tanks and then just refill these as necessary using this handy little device right here. Now lastly, let's circle back around to safety just a little bit. You know, I told you that this is clean, it burns clean, so there's no carbon monoxide risk as long as it's functioning properly, as long as you're filtering your gas and it's burning cleanly like it's supposed to. But who wants to find out that, you know, their machine is defective or something went wrong, or maybe that your connection is leaking just a little bit? Don't risk it. Spend the extra money and get you a carbon monoxide a carbon monoxide alarm. Now, the one that I bought was a little pricier than some of the cheaper ones because this isn't just carbon monoxide. This will also detect natural gas and propane in the event that there's a small leak. Okay, so if this happens to be leaking and for some reason I'm not smelling it, this alarm will pick it up as long as the alarm is plugged in somewhere close to where I have this set up. And that can be life-saving because the last thing you want is there to be a small leak, fire this thing up, and have an explosion. So don't skip, don't cut corners. Make sure you get a carbon monoxide alarm that also detects propane and natural gas. All right, you know, that's about all I'm going to say about this. I'm going to keep this all boxed, with the exception of the propane. I'm going to keep all these parts and pieces boxed up, probably in the original box that this came in, have it sitting on the shelf so I know where everything's at, so it's nice and convenient. And if ever I had to leave out my home and take my heater with me, I know I've got all my little parts and pieces with me. And that's our kit. And that's going to hopefully sit on the shelf, and hopefully we're not going to need it. Yeah, unless I find myself having to relocate north for some reason, and then I'll be thankful I do. Hey, here's another thought. Magic Pepper mentioned this last night in his video, and it's very important. Because our country is facing the energy crisis that it is, because Europe is facing the energy crisis that they are facing, and if you're not familiar with it, because it's not widely talked about in mainstream media, you need to go out there. It's looking pretty dire for the people in Europe this winter, because all the gas has been shut off coming from Russia, and there's just not enough, especially for using it for a heat source. And having lived in Europe for a few years, I can tell you a lot of the homes over there rely on natural gas as a heat source. So a lot of those folks are going to be, going out and scooping up products like these because they're going to need it to survive. Well, you may need it to survive too. If there's fuel shortages there, we've already seen high prices here, and there's already been talk about, fuel shortages here in the United States. So don't risk it, and go out and pick up something like this. Whether you use the links and the affiliate links that I have down below, not important to me. Whether you go to your local hardware store and shop and see what you can find, what's important is that you have a couple of methods to provide yourself some alternate heat this winter. All right, hey, that's it for Down-Grid Survival. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.